He inherited, what, £10 million from the late Queen Mother?
Again, that's all very secret, so we don't know the exact figures.
But why is no one asking him? I mean, him and his upstart wife that have arguably no real, like they haven't earned that money by any means. Why aren't we criticising? Extend the same courtesy to William.
Well, £369 million that's come from Crown Estate money. It's a very complicated system where the profits in the Crown Estate then get hived off by a certain percentage to repair Buckingham Palace over 10 years. Because of COVID and because of 100 million this year to complete Buckingham Palace. Do you think is it worth the money? Do we want all this money spent on a grand Buckingham Palace that people can visit and we can have state visits there?
They get the money back, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly,
if they open it up more, then if they open up 10 months a year as opposed to how many months is it open now, 4 or 5 or something, whatever. If they've
extended it over the summer now.
Yeah, extended it over the summer. They will get the money back, so that's fair enough. But it's a question of what. But I thought it was also rather interesting. I didn't think it was a very good look for William not to reveal what income tax. I think it's a very strange thing. His spokespeople say that he's paying the maximum income tax on his profits from the Duchy of Cornwall. But why not tell us what that is?
What difference
I don't understand the point of keeping it secret. It's just not a very good look.
I understand why he's keeping it secret, because I think there.
So Harry just got slapped with a $500,000 tax bill while Parliament debates stripping his royal titles faster than Meghan dropped her acting career. You know what they say about karma? It doesn't just knock, it kicks the door down, wearing steel-toed boots and demanding back payments with interest. The man who spent years crying about wanting financial independence just discovered that independence comes with a price tag he apparently never bothered to read. But here's what nobody's talking about. The timing of this whole royal meltdown is more suspicious than Meghan's sudden British accent disappearing the moment she left England, and the story gets wilder from here.
When you give the public too much to talk about, again, he can't win. He could pay so much in income tax, but people are saying, oh, but then you must be earning this much. And then we get into a back and forth about what he's actually earning. You do have to realize that the royal family are kind of in a fishbowl. So they may be fabulously wealthy, but they can't really enjoy it. They can't walk around with like Rolexes and in ostentatious garb like.
The whispers coming out of Westminster suggest this isn't just about unpaid taxes or unused titles that Harry's been flashing around Hollywood like a discount coupon at a luxury store. Sources close to the parliamentary discussions hint at documents that could make Harry's explosive Oprah interview look like a bedtime story your grandmother would tell. We're talking about financial records that show just how deep the Sussex money grab really went, with numbers being floated around behind closed doors that would make your mortgage payment look like pocket change. The paper trail they've uncovered doesn't just show tax evasion, it reveals a systematic exploitation of royal privileges that would make a con artist blush.
So, I mean, there has to be limits on what you can share. And this is why I also agree with sort of Prince William's approach to streamlining the royal family, like many European royals have done, and downsizing it to have like, they just need 2 homes, really. That's all they can make use, Sandringham and Buckingham Palace, and just make everything else.
But that's just the tip of this royal iceberg. Nobody wants to discuss publicly yet. Parliament isn't playing games anymore, and rumors suggest they've got evidence that's more damaging than a royal family Christmas dinner argument. Harry thought he could waltz into Hollywood, cash checks with Prince on his business cards, and never face the music back home. Well, the band just started playing, and it's not God Save the King, it's more like pay your damn taxes. These MPs are moving faster than Harry ran from royal duties. And they're not stopping for tea breaks or polite diplomatic discussions. The legislation is being fast-tracked with the kind of urgency usually reserved for national emergencies. The real question isn't whether Harry will pay up, it's what else they're going to find when they start digging deeper into those Sussex financial files that have been conveniently overlooked for years.
We can really argue the case that this is actually an institution that benefits Britain in virtually every single way. I don't think that's asking for too much, but going down this rabbit hole about how much he actually makes, well, how much does he enjoy? He's not on a yacht in the south of France living the life that he wants to. He's usually...
You've got to love how Harry spent years complaining about being trapped in a golden cage, only to discover that cage came with some pretty sweet tax benefits he's now desperately missing, like a security blanket. The man walked away from a job where his biggest responsibility was cutting ribbons and showing up to charity galas, looking somewhat interested, and somehow managed to turn that cushy gig into a $500,000 government problem. His financial advisors must be having nightmares right now, probably wondering how someone can mess up a situation where your only job requirement was be born royal and don't embarrass the family. Spoiler alert, he failed spectacularly at the second part. But wait until you hear what Meghan's been up to while Harry's been dealing with his tax troubles. It's even more entertaining than her acting career ever was.
Income tax thing is interesting. We're going to get onto it later. We'll chat about it now. William earns money, I think it was like a 20-odd million he earns from the Duchy of Cornwall, which is something that he got from his father, who in turn got for, it's inheritance, it's all the land. And so he receives all this money, and then he pays the full rate of income tax. But the argument is that we don't tell everybody how much tax we earn. We don't publish our tax receipts. I think in the US maybe they ask the president to reveal their tax receipts, but why should William reveal his tax? He's paying the top rate of tax.
It's also un-British. We don't really talk about money anyway.
Word on the street is that Meghan's been quietly distancing herself from this mess faster than she distanced herself from her own family after landing her royal cat. Hollywood insiders whisper she's been taking meetings without Harry, trying to salvage whatever's left of her brand before it gets completely buried under this avalanche of royal drama and government paperwork. The woman who once declared she was going to revolutionize the monarchy is now allegedly trying to revolutionize her exit strategy with the same strategic planning she used for her first marriage. She married a prince and got a taxpayer with daddy issues and a receding hairline. That mathematical equation isn't working out too well for her California dreams, her bank account, or her social media engagement rates that have been dropping faster than Harry's approval ratings in Britain.
I understand the criticisms of the Queen back in the 90s about, her paying taxes. I get that, because you should actually be paying some taxes. But I think to go into the nitty-gritty of, how much have you earned, how much have you donated to charity? But then it looks like he might be bragging, like, I donated this much, 90% of those earnings to charity. It's an uncomfortable conversation that I think is completely unnecessary.
A very interesting point yesterday, a very scathing article saying that the royals were now on a gravy train and getting far too much money from the sovereign grant, and in fact they'd offered up the royal train as a sort of distraction to take people's attention away from the fact that they're just earning too much money. And so, that's getting all the headlines, get rid of the royal train. So that's an interesting point of view. But I think it had to go. But as Esther says,
The palace's silence throughout this whole debacle has been more deafening than Harry's complaints about his childhood trauma during primetime television interviews. King Charles hasn't said a word publicly, but palace sources suggest he's been watching this unfold with the satisfaction of a man who warned his son about consequences and is now watching those chickens come home to roost. Charles spent decades preparing Harry for royal life, teaching him protocol and responsibility, only to watch him trade it all for a chance to complain about it on television while cashing Netflix check. The king's patience has apparently run thinner than Harry's hairline, and that's saying something considering genetics haven't been particularly kind to the Windsor men. Everyone can see exactly where this royal train wreck is heading next, and it's not toward reconciliation or happy endings.
What sort of environmental example is it setting to be flying around in helicopters all the time?
Yeah.
When we were all being told a few years ago, take the train and don't get in cars, and now we're getting the complete opposite. So it doesn't really fit in with the King's green credentials, but I think it had to go.
I think they can't win either way. If they kept it, people would say, it's something that the Queen was very passionate about. It's emblematic of the royal, because they're earning too much money. I mean, the £100 million that have been granted for the refurbishments of Buckingham Palace, there is a public good there. If you go anywhere near Buckingham Palace, it's always full of tourists. A tour alone will cost about £60 per person just to tour the Buckingham Palace. The British public makes a lot of money, and there's a lot of financial good that comes from just tourism that the royal family generates.
What makes this whole situation even more delicious is how Harry's been caught in his own contradiction trap, like a royal mouse in a very expensive maze. He spent 2 years telling everyone who'd listen that he wanted privacy and independence from the royal family, while simultaneously using his royal titles to negotiate million-dollar deals and get VIP treatment everywhere he went. The man wanted his cake, wanted to eat it, wanted to sell the recipe, and then complained when the bakery sent him the bill with compound interest. Now he's discovering that you can't have it both ways, especially when the government starts paying attention to your tax returns and realizes you've been living like a royal while paying taxes like a commoner. The hypocrisy is so thick you could cut it with one of those ceremonial swords he used to carry around at royal function.
I don't, but I personally think this was the right time to get rid of the royal
I think
train.
at the moment the refurbishment of Buckingham Palace, which is clearly necessary, the rewiring and plumbing and everything else, which is ancient, got to be done. But then after that's over, I think they really do have to make some serious decisions because they've just got too many homes. And, when sadly the king dies, I'm a private, but they've, it still doesn't, it's not a good look to have 7 or 8 homes, is it?
Do you not think the royal family should have lots of homes? It's the royal family.
I think they should
have
make use
helicopters,
of all
they
of
should
them.
have trains, they should have a yacht. This is the whole idea.
Yeah, I think they should, to a certain extent.
The $500,000 tax penalty isn't just a number, it's a message written in government letterhead that says, "Welcome to adult consequences, Your Former Highness with all the diplomatic subtlety of a brick through a window." Harry's been living in a bubble where royal titles meant automatic respect and Netflix money. But bubbles have this funny habit of popping when reality shows up with a pin and a government audit. The Treasury Department doesn't care if your grandmother was the queen, if your wife has a lifestyle blog that nobody reads, or if you've got trauma from growing up in palaces most people only see in tourist brochures. They want their money, and they want it with the kind of interest that would make a loan shark look like a humanitarian organization. This isn't just about back taxes, it's about accountability for someone who thought his birthright made him untouchable by common laws that apply to regular working people. Meanwhile, the removal of titles bill is racing through Parliament like it's being chased by one of Harry's overpriced security details that British taxpayers are probably still funding somehow. MPs who usually can't agree on what to have for lunch are suddenly united in their desire to strip Harry of his Duke of Sussex title with the kind of bipartisan cooperation that would make American politicians jealous. These are the same politicians who take 6 months to decide on parking meter rates and argue about tea break schedules, but they're moving on Harry's titles, like they're clearing expired milk from the royal refrigerator during a health inspection. The speed of this legislation suggests they've been planning this move longer than Meghan planned her royal wedding guest list. And that's saying something, considering the amount of drama and strategic positioning that went into that particular social event. The parliamentary machinery has been oiled and ready for this moment. But here's where it gets really interesting and potentially devastating for the Sussex brand. Removing Harry's titles doesn't just affect him personally, it completely destroys Meghan's entire post-royal business strategy that she's been building since day one of their relationship. Without Duchess in front of her name, she's just another failed actress from California with a podcast nobody listens to, a jam business that makes about as much money as a lemonade stand in winter, and a reputation for being difficult to work with that precedes her into every Hollywood meeting. Her whole brand was built on royal adjacency and the promise of insider access to British high society, and now that foundation is crumbling faster than her relationship with the British press after her first royal tour. The woman who thought she could modernize the monarchy and turn it into her personal brand empire is about to discover that the monarchy has survived for over 1,000 years and can continue just fine without her modernization efforts. Thank you very much. The real comedy gold in this situation is watching Harry slowly realize that walking away from royal duties was like quitting a union job with full benefits to become a freelancer in the gig economy, except he forgot to develop any actual marketable skills first beyond looking good in military uniforms. His resume basically reads, showed up to events, wore fancy uniforms, occasionally gave speeches, someone else wrote, cut ribbons with expensive scissors, and complained about family dynamics on international television. In Hollywood, where talent and connections matter more than birthright, that qualifies you to be an extra in crowd scenes, not an executive producer making creative decisions. Now, he's discovering that former Prince doesn't carry the same weight as Prince when you're trying to negotiate your next Netflix deal. And the entertainment industry is about as forgiving as a British tabloid during a slow news cycle. The golden parachute he thought he had turned out to be made of fool's gold and broken promises.